I want to start with the personal observation, which is that my personal temporary situation is that I fly an incredible amount. I spend a lot of time and money flying, and so I try to save pollution where I can, which is in taxis, in getting to and from the airport. So, if there's anybody there that doesn't know what Uber and Lyft are, I would like your email address. I would like to refer you so that both you and I can get $40 worth of free rides. But I suspect there is hardly anyone here like that. So I'm not going to talk about what a game changer Uber and Lyft are for our personal transportation. I think that's yesterday's news. What I want to say is I think it could be a game changer for the urban environment and sustainability. Let me say why. So any transportation mode, for it to be sustainable, needs to have three indispensable attributes. Clean obviously comes to mind first, but it's equally important for it to be sustainable that it is cheap and convenient, and otherwise it wouldn't be competitive. So if you look at the three broad modes of choices we face today, each one of them is lacking in at least one attribute that I mentioned. If you use the personal gasoline car as the benchmark for cheap and convenient, it's clearly not clean. The hybrids and EVs are costly, proof for the fact. We see few of them on the roads. And mass transit, except for the fortunate few who live close to mass transit and work close to mass transit, it's inconvenient. So they're all missing at least one of them. Why do I think Uber and Lyft might deliver all three? Let me first alert you to the technological opportunity that is begging to be exploited, but we have consistently underexploited for a very long time. So this is a picture of the last 25 years of the fuel economy of personal automobiles. The black line at the bottom is the average fuel economy of the cars that we are driving around, somewhere around 20 miles per gallon, inching up barely. The blue dotted line is the fuel economy of the best gasoline hybrid car. So it's clearly the gasoline and hybrids, the best car available, is more than 2 times efficient. But it's still not good enough for us to adopt it, which explains why the black line is languishing below the green line. But it gets worse. If I put here the fuel economy of what electric vehicles have done in the last 7 or 8 years or 10 years, the fuel economy of electric vehicles is off the charts. It's 6 times, 7 times more efficient, and it's still not good enough for us to adopt it. Okay? So, which means that the green, what I like to call the green choice gap, is just widening, which is not good news. What this is saying is our traditional ways of encouraging technology adoption are failing. I mean, science and technology has delivered 6 times more efficiency, but it's barely making a dent on fuel economy of the cars on the road. So why do I think Uber and Lyft might close that gap bigly? I can't believe I said that, but so let me, well, maybe I was inspired by Peter. So I want to use one simple financial metric to convince you, and this is my only original contribution in terms of analysis here. So I want to use a metric called the payback. What it is, it's simply the time it takes to recover the extra cost you're going to shell out today to buy an electric car through fuel savings down the road. And I made some general assumptions here. If you drive it as a personal vehicle, it's more accurate to say if you keep it idle as a personal vehicle, because 95% of the time we're not driving it. So if you drive it as a personal vehicle 12,000 miles a year, it takes 12 to 15 years to recover the cost. I don't think anybody keeps a car for 12 to 15 years. That's awfully long. So the interesting thing, if it were to be driven around as a taxi, like Uber would, it's about 36 to 40,000 miles a year. A typical taxi goes 36 to 40,000 miles a year. The payback period drops by a third, 4 to 5 years. That's a fantastic payback for any commercial enterprise. Just 4 to 5 years, you can recover the cost, and then for the next 10 years or whatever, you're not spending anything. So it makes every sense for a commercial enterprise like Uber to exploit it, and I think they are going to. But wait, it gets better. and you heard it here first, if you slap on top of it a 5 cents per mile premium, so essentially what it is if you want to go to LAX from UCLA, it's 60 cents more you're going to pay. And I think a lot of people here, including undergraduate students who pay through the nose, poorly paid graduate students, everybody will be willing to pay that. 60 cents per mile, the payback drops to 2 to 3 years. If the green premium is 10 cents, you can imagine what it cents. I think a lot of people will be willing to pay 10 cents per mile rather than asking us to shell out a lot of money to buy an electric car. So I think this is the fundamental game changer here, that there is every incentive for a commercial enterprise to adopt these super efficient new vehicles. And from consumer perspective, we can use it, so we can enjoy it, but we don't have to own it. Right? So you don't have to own it, but you can enjoy it. Sounds pretty much like a national park, right? So, so maybe I'm going too far. But clearly, the bottom line is we can enjoy it without having to purchase it. That's fundamentally the idea of the peer-to-peer or the sharing economy. And I think that's why I'm optimistic that this will come to pass. So far, so good. Everything seems to be happening out of private self-interest, but maybe there is a little bit that we need to do collectively as a society, and that is a euphemism for the word government, which I don't think many people like, but that's what I'm saying. There are 2 or 3 things we need to take care of for this to work out for the environment as well, which is that the first and biggest problem is that we have to address the rebound effect. What is that? As things get cheaper, we consume more of it. That's it. And so it's true for anything, and it's true for travel, and I can vouch for that. I do that. So the only way to control it, and this is not Uber's or Lyft's problem, it's the society's problem, is we need to tax the bads. So we absolutely need to tax the bads, which is essentially we need a carbon tax or something like that. The second thing is that mass transit, this talk is about Uber and keeping our cars, but I think mass transit has to be an indispensable part of any sustainable future. We absolutely need to have a bigger uptake of mass transit. And here I think Uber can help. In fact, it might already be helping solve the so-called first mile, last mile problem. Here is a picture courtesy of Uber, which shows the map of Los Angeles. The black dots are the LA metro stations, and the blue arrows are the trips that Uber were undertaken through Uber. And and you can see, well, you cannot see literally, but it's according to Uber, it's 16% of all trips originate or end near a metro station. Okay, so it's probably already helping that. So it can lead to a renaissance in mass transit if we do it right. So it needs to be integrated into our urban planning strategies. Here's another thing it can do. It might. This is a map of downtown Los Angeles with those colorful things showing parking spaces and the price, pretty pricey parking structures and this cost. Imagine if we were to liberate, if we were to eliminate the need for these parking structures through Uber and Lyft, and what it can do for increasing the amount of green space in Los Angeles. That's another one. And third and finally is the third challenge. Uber is a new industry. It is a very disruptive, Uber and Lyft. It's a very disruptive innovation. It's very disruptive socially as well. We all benefit from it, but there are some unintended negative consequences on some people. And so maybe there is a case for some kinds of regulations. So, but we need to be very careful here that we do not overdo it. Regulations can very easily become burdensome and onerous, and it can kill innovation. So at the same time, it can also create barriers to entry and competition. So we need to make sure that when we regulate it, it's just targeted and just right. Okay. Otherwise, we'll kill innovation and we'll kill further improvement of this wonderful innovation. Finally, so let me recap what is the fundamental thing that I've talked about through the example of electric vehicles. It is that, if you want to take away, it's just that you can use it, but you don't have to own it. That's it, right? The same idea can be adopted for hydrogen vehicles, renewable energy, autonomous vehicles. I already mentioned about greater mass transport and redesigning urban space. So I just want to leave you with this. Basically, I think it's a game changer for innovation adoption. This is pretty much going to happen. But with smart policies, I think we can make it a game changer for the urban environment and sustainability as well. I think I'll leave it there.